You feel like you keep having to step in. You're keeping all the balls in the air, and any amount of time is a long time to be the only one that's leading and fixing and doing all the things and being chief everything officer again. What you're experiencing isn't a pattern of poor judgment, but it is a pattern of overfunctioning. I'm Felicia Ford, the growth strategist for creatives and changemakers, and we're getting to the bottom of this today. If you're leading a team but stepping in way too often, if you've been covering the gaps and handling assignments even though you gave them away, this is a pattern. I'm here to tell you that you can rebuild the flow. You can recover from this. What you won't do again is carry the cost of someone else's avoidance. So here's what we're covering today: how to recognize when leadership has become overfunctioning, why wrong fit, misaligned hires are breaking your team, what boundaries look like when they protect the business, and how to rebuild. I'm going to walk you through what's happening under the surface and what you get to step into once you've named what overfunctioning disguised as leadership actually costs you. Let's go. Let's walk through these four signs that overfunctioning is shaping your leadership and what changes once you name it. So, sign number one, you're the backup plan every time. But there are systems. You are bringing in clients, people are coming to events, you are in community networks, and you're seeing things are working. You've delegated, but you're still circling back. You might still need to fill in. You still might need to go and sit in a seat that is not your seat, but you're making sure the work actually happens. And you've gone from having to do this occasionally to consistently, because if you don't, it doesn't get done. But let's pause there because while it might feel extreme, it is extreme, especially if this has become a pattern, a habit, which we're naming. And yes, this means that you might require overhauling everything. But before the rebuild, let's take some time to understand the system that made this feel normal so that you don't replicate it again, but with new faces. Sign number two, the system is shielding underperformance. This is the reality in shelters, in therapy practices, in service based businesses of every kind, in, oh my gosh, in restaurants, fine dining included. This happens that if the leader doesn't show up or step in, someone gets hurt or the business name gets hurt. And it's the truth that leaders are living with right now. I've noticed since around 2015 how things have shifted. Now, I stopped teaching at the college about 12, 11 years ago. And I noticed how, as first year students, there were some things they just were not prepared to do, some things they just didn't understand that you would typically expect a high school senior, a high school graduate to understand how to attach something in an email and then send that to whomever it needs to be sent to. But no, they didn't know. It was a surprise to me. This is what I mean by saying that's not theory. It's the truth that leaders are living with. And we can look at that particular situation and compare it to someone who has come through the hiring process, the selection process, made it to their desk, made it to onboarding, made it to training, and they're now sitting in their seat and expected to deliver. We're looking at protecting the structure because the structure holds the mission. But here's what happens when the standard stays high to how the work is delivered, but the accountability stays soft. People get used to being protected from their own irresponsibility. The culture starts bending to accommodate delay, denial, or distraction. And those who stay too long without delivering start to believe that they belong. I cannot wait until we get to the end of this because I have an invitation for you. But some of the people who benefit most from your delays, they might not be malicious people, but they are being irresponsible. They wanted to be near strong leadership, but they may not have fully understood the level of responsibility that comes with it. If someone isn't ready to meet the standard, that misalignment shows. And they've then benefited from being close to power without ever having to match its weight. And because you've been protecting the mission, they've then mistaken your intervention for permission, right? That's someone saying, oh, if I mess up, they're going to step in anyway. Oh, if I don't do this the way that the instructions say, they're still going to come in and pick up the slack. So sometimes the systems aren't broken, they're just mismatched to the people in them. And if you've been adjusting your pace or adjusting your deadlines or adjusting what things can look like once they leave the desk or go out into the public, it's worth asking, is the work really too hard? Or is the standard simply unfamiliar to the people in the room? Right. So let's shift how we talk about capacity, because this place and this level of leadership requires that the standard is the standard. It's the baseline, it's minimum, right? It's the minimum viable product. And if there are people who think they can operate at that level, but really can't, it requires an adjustment. Sign number three is that the right hire for the wrong season still costs you pretty significantly, I'd say, because sometimes the issue isn't the person, it is the timing. Some people are really solid and they have skills and they've demonstrated those skills and they've done well and they've performed well. The CV looks great or the portfolio looks great and they show up energetically, and you've got this incredible human sitting across from you, but they may not be right for you where you are right now. So you may be hiring based on what you've seen, which is all we've got, but overlooking stage of growth readiness. It's some hires, some people that you bring on, they might thrive in chaos. That might not be true for everyone because some people need systems. I'm a person who needs a system, or I will create one. Some people are builders, others are optimizers. I am a builder. I am also an optimizer, but I know that's not a skill set that everyone has. So I don't expect that of all people. And depending on where you are in your business or your nonprofit, you might have to identify, have you thoroughly explained to people that are coming on board, I'm going to need you to take this and run with it? Do you communicate that at the onset? Is that a part of the conversation before they are signing their name to their contract or their employment agreement letter? Do they know what they're stepping into? Because that then also gives you information on what you can expect from that person. Because if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you know that people love getting close to power until it asks something of them. So this becomes the question: do they just get it, or can they also carry it? So if you've been adjusting your structure to accommodate what someone can't or won't do, you know, my friend, that is not sustainable. It just requires taking a step back, observing differently, thinking about what expectations have been set, what boundaries have been set, what has actually been crossed, and what can we do now? So let's go on to sign number four. Compassion is costing you clarity. This is not about being harsh, right? I lead from a place of disruptive leadership because sometimes I can be a very black and white person, right? No ambiguity. Mm-mm. It doesn't work for me. But you can care about people. You can understand their intention and their best effort. Or when I say intention, I know sometimes that word is now overused, but it really is. What did you mean by this? What were you hoping to happen here? And that has nothing to do with actual action. And you can still evaluate their impact, even if they had a good intention, because understanding doesn't mean extending someone's timeline indefinitely, because you are still going to be left carrying their weight. When someone can't perform or carry what your Your mission requires the kindest thing that you can do for them and for you is to have a conversation. Okay. So from here, what happens next? We look at what it means to move in power from a place of power instead of a place of guilt. We're all change makers. We have hearts. We love our people. We're all about community. But from here forward, if the people that are assigned to helping you in your assignment of your vision, if they are not solid, they cannot be a part of it because proximity, it should cost something, whether it's reliability or results or what do they say? Receipts, right? Access to you and your vision should never be free. It costs something. It costs something to deliver what you're delivering. It costs you something to believe. It costs you something. You've invested into being where you are and to be entrusted with what you have. You have to hold the line here, right? You have to hold the line. You're no longer the person who has to be the fixer. You're no longer the man or the woman who has to prove their power by cleaning up what others drop. You are the leader, you are the CEO. So here's where things shift, right? This is where you confront the system underneath your system. And for some of us, we've been acclimated to the part of corporate culture that has the three strikes. I know that is where I am hardwired to follow that process. I mean, it's been ingrained in me. And even though I've been out of corporate America for over 15 years, it's still a part of what I knew and what I know. The corporate three strike culture says that there's a verbal, a written, and then your consequence. And sometimes that consequence is you're out of here. And, for good reason, that process works in most cultures. It teaches fairness, it creates a record because in our industry, if it's not written, it didn't happen. But that really gives the illusion of control because some of you do have an HR person. And in many cases, you are not the manager, you're not the supervisor, but you're bound to a handbook. You're a CEO, you're an executive director, or maybe you are in some type of managerial position, but you're building this work. And as a change maker, whether we want to admit it or not, we're we're investing our time, our money, and even more, I think the most expensive thing is that your nervous system is on the line here. So while the muscle memory of corporate structure says, be fair, be procedural, document, delay until the third infraction, your CEO self has now seen with these four signs that waiting that long costs more than it protects. It is time to dismantle this process and this thought process. This new rule isn't three strikes. Consider this. If it compromises the brand, the rhythm, or the revenue twice, it doesn't get a third chance. And some of you may say, if it does it once, it's a wrap. So I'm not telling you to break your HR rules and to go against what HR says. That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying that you want to look at what's happening and has been happening repeatedly as a pattern. This second way the shift can happen is to look at this grace versus guilt tangle, because that one runs deep for people. If someone continually benefits from your delay, that is enablement. And I hear you. It might be time to surgically extract the pieces of belief that keep you sacrificing your boundaries in the name of being, air quotes, good, right? And so if you're holding on to that grace versus guilt tangle, then consider that part. Then if you're thinking, oh, they're such good people, that's compassion, right? You see people in their full humanity and That's great. That's honorable. But good people with bad patterns will still derail your momentum if you let them, and especially if you let them stay too long. So you can love someone's heart and still extract them from your space. You can know someone means well and still remove them from your infrastructure. Because if they're good people, becomes the reason that you delay every hard decision, every hard move, you'll continue getting left to carry what they've dropped. You have to choose differently, my friend. So before we close, I just, there's a lot of passion coming out here because I've had conversations with so many leaders in the past 3 weeks. And there's been a conversation around what is happening in teams, on teams. What we can do is allow ourselves space to, number one, remember that we're human. Number two, to just realign and readjust. And I would say you are not the problem. This same root issue keeps coming up and it brings itself back to capacity. It comes back to leadership fatigue. It comes back to holding the line while feeling like you're the only one who sees it. And I do want you to know that if this hits home for you, you are not the only one in this season. And you're not the only one that notices it. On Tuesday, June 24th, I am hosting a fireside chat off record on Rhythm live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I invite you to be my guest. You may register for free at media.feliciafordandco.com/events. And I hope to see you there. All right, my friend. See you next time. Hey, Changemaker, real quick before you go, if today's episode helped you in some way, the best way to thank me is to head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and leave a review. I'd also love to connect with you over on social. You can find me at Friends Call Me Fee. Until next time, keep changing the game.